Hey everybody, how's it going? It's Wednesday, which means it's time for catch up. I actually would have started this a bit earlier, but I had to do some updates, so that's also nice. So let's get them back. So as that where we left off yesterday on Monday, we finished off the third story, the third adventure, the adventure of the runaway room. So now we're on the fourth one, which is the adventure of why am I forgetting his name? The adventure of the crowded Kokoro. You have some other stuff, but we can do that later. Let's just continue. We only just met our client, by the way. And here he is. His name, I remember, is Suseki Nasumi. A scholar sent to Britain by the Japanese government to further his studies in English. He is the defendant accused of attempted murder. We also ran to Topaz Grayson, a young detective inspired in charge of sorry, let me reread that. A detective inspector in the charge of Scotland Yard's investigation of the case. His stern and single-minded in his approach, and a great lover of fish and ships. And then our usual stuff. Y'all know that's gonna be a thing. Yes, that's some of our greatest and first-rate lawyer. Means, of course, just as I said, you'll defend me! Oh, no, sorry, that was my I was trying to do. Then why else would you show me that? Oops. In hindsight, that probably wasn't the best idea. Alright. Tsugi Nasumi-san, the one unusual name. Suzuki, please. A poet, you see, a writer of haiku. It's something of a non-diplom. A non-diplom? You mean an alias? That's right. Naruto-san. No. Don't be precise. It's much more refined than that. An haiku? That really reminds you of home. Did I hear you said you were a visiting student sent over here by the government? Yes, that's right. A year ago, I was told to go and study English. First, I had to suffer this misery. Not that misery. Now this. It's beyond the pale. Suffer that misery? Do you not want to stay here? No, I mean, I had an interest in crypt bread for some years, of course. Oh. But just because the government tells you to do something, does that mean you can do it? No. What do you mean? If they told me to study English literature, that I could have understood. That's my field. No. They told me to study the English language. Utterly unbelievable, unjustly unreasonable. I'll figure an accent later. Let's see. On the other day, I was told to send my report about my first year here. I intend a blank piece of paper. Wise birds on white bushy. Oh, right side. You must be a man of great standings. Oh yes, I'm often told that. Sorry, so I'm often told. I'd often like to be told, it seems. Alright. So actually, could you perhaps tell us exactly why you're being arrested, Suzuki-san? I didn't do it! I didn't commit that atrocious murder! Murder? Oh, no! Oh, no. It's alright. The woman didn't actually die. Did she? But she was stabbed with a knife right before my eyes. Before your eyes? You mean you saw the attacker? I didn't see anyone. What? If I seen the person who did it, you think I'd be locked in here? Locked up in here? Oh dear. Seems this case is becoming rather complicated. Why me? Why me? Why does silly woman have to be stabbed in front of me? The curse! It's the curse! The curse of London! It's incredibly, inexcusable, irritating, inconceivable, inconvenient. Sorry. Right, he does haikus. Suzuki-san was there in the scene, but he didn't see the attacker. It's better we find out more about the case. It was an accursed evening, just after the snow had started to clear and heavy with fog. I've been to the bookstore to buy some books, and I was on my way back to my cursed lodging. Sure, the bookshop wasn't accursed too. As I was walking along the accursed pavement, I could make out a solo silhouette of another ahead of me. A woman wearing a green overcoat. She was, and I just went to overtake her. She suddenly let out a little scream and collapsed onto the cold, hard slab of stone at my feet. How terrible. I called out to the woman, but she didn't move. It was like a ghastly, ghoulish graveyard! Slight exaggeration there, perhaps. I was terrified. I had to get away from there. So I ran. Ran as fast as my legs could carry me back to my cursed lodging. That's not good. They'll say it was shameful, I know, to run away like that. I'm so sad. Was the victim an acquaintance of yours? Don't be ridiculous! You think I knew any of these fair-haired English? And a young woman at that? I'm different, shy, timid, unsure. I can't talk to people. I see. A young woman unknown to success. And the time that happened? At the time it happened? What did you see nearby? Did anyone pass you? Regrettably, apart from myself and the woman, I didn't see a soul. Anyone? Oh, great. So the victim was unknown to you, and there was no one else on the street at the time. This creates something of a conundrum, doesn't it? Hmm? What conundrum? What do you mean, Susan? What's the conundrum? Well, if what Suzuki had told us is true, there's something I can't explain. He said he didn't know the victim, and that there was no one else at the scene. Then he apparently fled without being seen. I did! But that's the case. This man has to be the culprit. Ah! You! What did you say? Nothing? I didn't say anything. Oops, perhaps I thought that a little lightly. Honestly, that's not what's troubling me. My thing was, how did Suzuki-san come to be arrested? That's a good question. Sorry. He didn't touch the victim, and there was no one at the scene to see him. How did the police ever discover that he was there in the first place? Oh yes! She's right! It was him! That cursed great detective! He led the police to me! Oh great, Watson. Of all the bad luck! Cursed great detective. Could it be? I shall never forget that man's name as long as I live. With his hotly laugh and self-proclaimed greatness. Bash! Big-headed! Busybody! Be gone! May you be cursed until the end of your days! Sherlock Holmes! I knew it. Mr. Sholmes? I like how you just put it like Herlock and then more German spelling. Well, I didn't expect to hear that name. Came from this man's lips, that's for sure. It was the morning after that nightmare I had unfolded on the paper before me. It was gnawing on a sliver of hard cheese when some man suddenly burst through the door. They started shouting at me. This is the police. Put the weapon down. Yes, it was the offensive, and yes, it was hard. But I wasn't eating a weapon. Discussing dietary, discriminating devils. We have tried. I tried morning yesterday. And there he was, in the middle of all the policemen, grinning like a Chester cat. That Sherlock Holmes! Holmes, damn it! It's actually Sherlock Holmes. He's English. I've since found out that he's a famous name in the tech here in London. Yes, the Great Detective is really well known. But his over-sharp mind managed to deduce my whereabouts, apparently. He thinks I'm a knife-wielding madman! Me! This weak, stupid kitten of a man! I wonder what the great deduction process led him to this conclusion is true. You mean to say that Mr. Jones' deduction was the only reason the police arrested you? That'd be really most unreasonable. Well, the thing is, I was running in panic when they barged their way in. Are you sure? It's natural. I was terrified and trembling, and the capturing question after question at me. In impossible English! Finished foreign film filmery! Well, we are in England. We're competing for questioning you in English. Good point, good point. But my way plan. I knew I had the answer, but I didn't know what to say. I kept repeating things like, yes I do, and I'm fine. And I knew I was in manacles. I'm found out I was running here. Oh dear, I'm afraid that's hardly surprising. I'm fine. Not fine now. Mr. Naruhodo SP Esquire. Oh, you can just call me Naruhodo. And when we're speaking English, a simple Mister is more than enough. Oh, yes, alright. Yes, they've really got to me. This country is poisoning my mind. But please, I beg you to defend me in court tomorrow. You can tell him what really happened. You'll do it, won't you? Well, why? Why? Why is it so hard to say yes to me? Well, the thing is, I'm just a student like yourself. On a study tour. A student? I have to defend the case in the Obeli. Only the one, though. Sorry, I have defended the case in the Obeli. Only the one, though. But at this moment in time, I really don't know what I'm supposed to believe in. I'm confused by what justice in this country even means. Naruhiro-san. I'm not even a foreign student who's supposed to be here. I'm sort of an I don't even know that word. I was outcome lawyer, I suppose. Well, I want to double check that. Locum, I think it is. That is a word. Placeholder. Oh, I'm sort of a placeholder lawyer, I guess. But that armband, that's the mark of the defense lawyers from our great empire. It's a keepsake from a man who should have been here. He was my best friend. Keepsake? I know exactly what they're saying about me. Oh? What do you mean? The lawyers. All the brave defense lawyers. They won't defend me. Goodness, why? Why do you say that? For the same reason you knew it before. When it happened. There was only the victim and myself around. And I ran away from the scene of the crime. I am not a fool. I know it looks as though I must have been the culprit. It must be very hard for you, Suki-san. Anyway, I'm a student from overseas. I'm just a foreigner to them. A foreign nobody to them. Someone not to be trusted. I hear them openly laughing about me before. My earshot without any compunction at all. Any child of this man would be a waste of time, they say. And of course the foreigner did it. They even had the gall to say, this man doesn't understand half of what's being said anyway. It's awful. They're wrong. I studied more English than half of the policemen out here on the streets. I've traveled halfway across the world to learn about these people's country and its great history. But no one here wants to listen to the mob with a strange accent. They all hate me. So, at the very least, I'd like to introduce my faith to someone who can listen to me in my native tongue. You could do it. Couldn't you? When I look into your eyes, I can see it. I can see what you've been through. Suki-san, it's just that... Give me a little time, please. I'll do what I can for the time being. What do you mean? We shall investigate the case as thoroughly as possible. If we find some clues, it'll give us a much better chance, I'm sure. Oh, yes. Thank you. I'll be here, all alone, waiting for you. You placeholder student, Mr. Naruhiro Esquire. We should be going then, Naruhiro-san. We have a kiss to prepare for. Look, I don't know how to pronounce that word, so I'm just gonna kind of do. It's called have it translated in placeholder. Hey, that bike's dented. Well, at least the wheels is. Also, Native Valley Barrier Road. Oh, okay. So this is where having Pereira Road. Ah, look! It's not Haru. Look at the regular machine metal helmets. It's unmistakable. The man of Scotland Yard here. They're investigating as we speak. That's is their job, you know. But Mr. Haru, to see with my own eyes. They're often depicted in the Great Adventure of Sherlock Holmes. But I've never dreamed of ever coming this close. To real Bobby's helmet. What? The helmet? Of course. I have to try one day. One day. Oh. Well, I hope your high dreams come true. What's the Japanese style like doing here? Oh, Inspector Grayson! This isn't a tourist trail, and I'm pretty sure you know where. Yes, of course. We're here to investigate. You've been to the holding cells, eh? Then? What do you make of the criminal? He's not a criminal as you put it, Inspector. He's a suspect. We'll see about that. Japanese like to stick together, I suppose. Well, do what you will. It doesn't bother me. The bloke's in court tomorrow. Or whatever happens, and the verdict is a foregone conclusion. A stone cold air projection. Take heart! London at this time of year is full of stone cold air. That makes it worse somehow. Hell's about Scotland Yard, Inspector. Ever since I read about it in the Adventure for Sherlock Holmes, I've been fascinated by the place. The Yard is the most sophisticated police organization you'll find anywhere in the world, ma'am. Oh, and you know, I always dream of wearing a real Bob Ice hat. It does make them look the part, seeing that policeman there with the helmet on. You can certainly get a sense that this man who will make no nonsense in his duty of protecting the city. Oh yes, so look wonderful. Getting on the bobbin is hard going, I can tell you. Oh really? First thing in the morning, you know what he does? Goes round and round to all the laborers on his beat so they can get off. So they can get off to work. What? He wakes people up? Yep. Ups on the windows with a long pole. But then myself going back a bit. No idea. The boy works for the people of the town. It's just another one of his duties. And after that, he starts tirelessly patrolling the streets all day long. He has to cover 20 miles a day. That's the regulation distance. I can't really imagine how far that is, but it sounds like a long way. It's quite far. Let me see. 20 miles. That's approximately a distance from Tokyo to Yokohama. On foot? That's definitely taking things a step too far. When I get started, of course, he has an important job of fighting all the street lamps. Oh my. And I suppose in between all the duties, Bobbies are expected to investigate cases as well. And chase after criminals that trying to evade the law. I'm not sure what you can call it. In between exactly. Or alongside. But yes. They're expected to handle those jobs as well. We do have men needling over from time to time, I admit. I always dreamt of wearing one of those helmets, as I said. But it's with a heavy heart that I shall have to really that during you. Your heavy heart will be my heavy head if you do. 20 miles. Wow, that's the distance. It happened at around 5 in the evening, 2 minutes ago. Just there, in an open bit of pavement. The victim, a young woman, was stabbed with a blade from behind. Is it right that the lady is still unconscious now? You mentioned her being treated in the hospital. I never said she was the lady. Truth is, unless she comes around pretty smartish, we won't be able to find out much about her at all. I suppose that means I haven't been able to take statements from her, of course. Here's a map of the local area I happen to have on me. You can take it if you want. Really? Are you sure? It's your policy to give lawyers defending subjects the odd bit of information to go on. I haven't actually stepped to the job yet, but still. Thank you, Inspector. We gratefully accept. The local map has been added to the court records. A street map of the local area showing where the victim was found. Let us look at it. Anyway, as far as we know, there's no one else on the scene of the crime other than the victim and your fellow countrymen. Excuse me a second. Which road is behind and verse. Alright, they've probably renamed these streets, so these probably aren't the actual street names. So who did it, you think? Do you think? Not much of a head scratcher, is it? Well, I know assume he is also claiming to not have seen anyone around, but just because he didn't see anyone, it doesn't mean he's sure no one else was present. No one else was present. I'm sorry to tell you, but we most certainly can be sure. Hi. Because, Mom, the precise moment of the stabbing didn't go unnoticed. What? We have 2 very reliable witnesses, no less. Ah! It was a typical foggy London day, and your lad obviously didn't see him. There were witnesses now? Here are these witnesses, Inspector. A fellow and his wife. And the man's one of the most reliable and respectable citizens in all of London. He's a copper from Scotland Yard. Ah! A policeman? That might change things. And this policeman just happened to be there at the exact moment the woman was attacked? Nothing particular about that, ma'am. Part and parcel of being a Lapawin. Catching them back in the middle of the act and all that. Do you think it might be possible for us to ask the policeman a few questions? You may guess. You can ask him what you like. In court tomorrow. Oh. I no doubt he'll be summoned as a witness. So that'll give you something to look forward to. That's not the end. He's got no intention of letting us meet the man beforehand, it seems. Policeman witnessed the incident. As your judicial assistant, I must warn you that this could make our job very difficult indeed. Yes, as a non-judicial assistant, I could have warned me about that. Oh yes, one more thing, Inspector. What? The person who led you to the suspect. I hear it was Mr. Sherlock Holmes. What are you bringing him up for? Something I said. The color has changed from his cheeks. A twitchy Japanese bloke goes to trial tomorrow. Are you going to defend him or not? Well, makes no difference to me, but I will just say this. No London liars worth his salt would punch that case with a barge pole. Because the prosecution is being handled by the Reaper at the Bailey, you mean? There's no way to save that one eye. It's a waste of time trying. It's all a bit strange, though. Sorry? The Reaper. He hasn't appeared in court once for a good few years now. Yes, we did hear that to that effect. Hear something to that effect. And the only people he usually bothers are scum. The master criminals. The violent ones. Master criminals? The violent ones? That's right. He handpicks his victims. Only deals with those guaranteed to go to the gallows for their sins. But Mr. Smith wouldn't hang for his accuse us, surely. That's just my point, Sunshine. Yes, the young woman was dead, but it didn't kill her. Couldn't even say the intent was there. So this isn't the sort of case I'd be expecting the Reaper to want to save into, for want of a better phrase. Well, it's not exactly a minor infraction, is it? No, there's got to be more to this. For some reason he's taken an interest. Really? Sort of reason, Inspector. I think I can tell what's going on inside the head of the Lord of Darkness. You'll have to ask him yourself at tomorrow's trial. You're really gonna have to face the Reaper again. The Lord of Darkness. That's a put it. Who did you hear that name from? Oh, well, it was Mr. Nasumi who mentioned it. He said Mr. Jones was the police when they entered his lodging. I'm sure as a result of Mr. Jones' inseparable great deductions. Pedophile! Well, that's a new term. Ah! That man's an amateur, and I'm getting sick and tired of him showing his mug everywhere. Oh. I don't know where he gets this information from, but he turns up at the scene of the crime, wanders around spending incomprehensive rubbish, and before you know it, he claims he has solved the case. Oh yeah, that was what happened. Yes, he's quite astonishing, isn't he? He's a great help to the... Sorry. He is a great help to Scotland Yard, though, isn't he? Give a gobble! Ah. Ever seen this before? Oh, yes, that's around this magazine. The wonderful publication in which the adventures of Sherlock Holmes appears. Yes, well, that wonderful publication you put. Sees fit to include several of the yards of the detectives in the stories. And the so-called great detectives makes a mockery of all of us. Yes, anyone in the yard, it's a misadventure to be included in any Sherlock Holmes tales at all. Well, I suppose there's an element to that. We work our socks off, every one of us, only to be brumped by the public thanks to the obnoxious detective. The man's as dangerous to us at Scotland Yard as he is to our criminals. That can't really be true, can it, Inspector? Clearly the good detective and the police have a complex relationship. Well, I don't think we're going to get any more useful information out of the detective. Sanrahodo, can I make a suggestion? Oh yes, what is it? You know, it seems to me that we must speak to him about this. By him, do you mean Mr. Sholmes? Yes, Mr. Sherlock Holmes, exactly. Those shining eyes. You can't be, can you? Well, Mr. Nasumi did blame Mr. Sholmes for all this, didn't he? Yes! He did. He really did. Which makes him an involved party to in the case. Are you going to ignore that? I hope not. I'm sure it's simply it's not simply my selfish desire to meet with Mr. Sholmes again. Trouble is, we have no idea where the man is even. It's Baker Street. But we have no idea on the man's address. Even so high, it's bigger. How did you know that? It's in the stores, of course. 221B Baker Street. The most famous address in the world. Oh, I see. Well, there's not stops from going, I suppose. We better find our way. Try to find our way there before the sun gets any more excited and unpredictable. Oh, summon the carriage! So we're to have a reunion already. The great detective, Mr. Sherlock Holmes. What a delightful snowman. I didn't realize the English actors could make snowman as well. Looks a little creepy though. Oh, it has a scarf, look. You want to be wearing this freezing cold all the time. I wish I had one. I'm afraid the budget is somewhat frozen one too. Certainly can't afford a scarf. Surely someone would miss his. But the person with the snowman certainly would. Yes, I know, you're right. Anyway, I knew I borrowed it. I wouldn't do much to warm my neck, would it? It's covered in snow. Sorry, that's the Scotland Yard carriage. These regulars to rush to the crime scene and cart away criminals. You're very well informed, aren't you? It's long been a dream of mine to ride one of those for the streets of London. Well, just pick up a stone or fruit for one of those, understand? But that would mean being arrested in order to ride it. Wouldn't it? Still, if it's the only way. Help me find the ghost stone! No, I wasn't serious! A patch? It must be where the incident occurred. Yes, it's a very wide open space, isn't it? That's true. I can't even see everywhere the attacker could have been hiding. Oi! What's all you foreigners doing here? Ah! Oh, we're, just passing the scene, officer. Conspiring with that mustache fatty from Japan, are you? Conspiring? You're ready to destroy evidence, have you? Get out of here before they give it in it. Go on. You shoot us away like rats. Yes. We should give him a little berth, I think. What a disappointing experience. It's one of the officers from Scotland Yard. Police are making sure the crime scene is undisturbed. I have a feeling if we are too close, we'll be clapped in irons. I think perhaps you're being a little overcautious. We're doing nothing wrong, so we have no cause for concern. Oh no, I'm not getting caught in this again. Twice is enough. Twice I found myself in handcuffs despite not knowing a thing or two of what's going on. Yes, you have some dreadful experiences. I'm sure that is why I look upon it you're so prone to. Does you no favors at all. Hey, oh, looks like the windows of a building there. Are you sure the windows? Yes, but they're all filled with bricks. Oh, you're right. I wonder why. Perhaps it's an empty property where no one lives at the moment. There's smoke coming from the chimney, though. Oh dear. Everything still feels so very foreign. There's so much we have to learn about this place. There are patches of snow on the pavement here and there, but the road itself is covered in carriage tracks. It seems carriage often travel down Briar Road. It's so dispersed all snow. I slipped over when I was walking to the pavement earlier. It seems like it would be safer to walk on the road instead. Oh, but you're rather small, Mr. Harlow. and all dressed in black. I worry horsemen might not see, and you could be flattened by horses. Well, thank you for the rather small concern. That's a rather typical old brick building, isn't it? I'm sure it has a long and interesting history. Well, time certainly has taken its toll on the place. It's freaking sagging all over. In fact, it looks definitely worse shaped than the other horses around here. We must find some cheap lodging ourselves as soon as possible. Yes, you're right. Cheap, but I dare leave a reasonable level floor. Oh, a British bicycle! Look! Although the wheels are so misshapen, sure it couldn't be possibly ridden anymore. Someone must have been doing some breakneck cycling. It seems bicycles have become extremely popular in London recently. There's even a movement to change women's dress to London as well. Bicycle platforms last. I don't see why anyone would want to ride something like that. Do you just like bikes? No, not at all. I mean, it's not that I dislike them exactly. It's just that any occupation that involves you taking both your feet off the front ground seems reckless. The average try walking on stilts and falling into the river. I know you agree with me. We'll have to hire a bike sometimes. You sit behind me while you ride your run. I think that's what's done here. I think we've found everything we can. At least for now. Yes. Amigo Carlos Bernardet. Well, let's go see Mr. Sholmes.
Thank you very much.
It's just up there overlooking the street. Good day.
Thanks again. This is it. The residence of Mr. Herlock Sholmes.
I did not expect the cutscene there. Holy lake. Why is there a knife across the envelope? 19 February, 12:53 p.m. Sholmes Suite. This is where the great detective makes his living. It feels surreal to be here somehow. Violin. It's a shreds and stories, Mr. Setter. Susanna-san? Many famous cases have been solved here in this very room. Oh. I suppose must have been, yes. I've never read the books, so it's hard to get quite as excited about it as she seems to be. The detective chases the victims relentlessly as he appears into the fog down an unlit London street. Oh, the thrill of it, the romanticism. Can you feel in your heart pumping in your chest? Can you, Mr. Naruhodo? Oh, I suppose I can, yes. So if you don't mind, I'll just stand here and soak up the atmosphere for a little while longer. Please, don't mind me. She's obsessed. Well, it looks like our detective friend isn't home at present. Excuse me, is anyone home? Oh, do we have a visitor? Hello! Is it a big new kiss for Mr. Sholmes? It's the one with the bigger gun! I never got her name. Oh, hello. Wait. Gee. Oh, hi, me. I'll go make us some tea at once. I'm going to examine the violin. I'm sure it's the same girl. Did you see the girl who was just here? Oh, yes. Isn't it truly extraordinary? To think that the king of Bohama came to this very room to ask Mr. Jones to take on his case. The king of Bohama? King Wilson's going to lie in the name matter. Let's finish that name. King Wilhelm City screw it. Sorry, I'm drawing the blank. Forget the adventure of Sherlock Holmes for a moment. And look over here. Tea is brewed, and I have freshly baked cakes as well. Ah, it's you! I knew it. Susanna and I recognized her too. There you are. I'm taking that with you as well. I was looking forward to the trip rather than my experiment smoke grenade launcher. Oh, good day to you. I'm, well, an inventor, I suppose, of that machine. It's the girl who turned up at the end of McGillick's trial in the defense antechamber. I never met a lawyer from the Far East before. Before you having to get straight to work and you only just arrived in London. Oh, yes, it was challenging. Well, try this tea. It's my special blend, you know. Oh, thank you. Tea's supposed to look that color. Oh my, what a fragrant yet mellow flavor. Right, as a runner, I tried playing different leans designed to alleviate fatigue, you see? You must be associated your long voyage here. You have another package trial tomorrow? Oh. And you're to defend Japanese man. I do wish you lots and lots of luck. Did Mr. Shrooms tell you about us by any chance? Oh, you know Hurley? Do you? Hurley? Mr. Shrooms, you? Shirley? Mr. Shrooms was a fellow passenger in the boat that brought us up Great Britain, you see. Was he really? Well, I had no idea. I read her. He's out on an errand today, even though he just returned from overseas. Wait a minute. You met this girl for the first time ever yesterday after the trial, and only briefly at that. I never said she knows so much about us. She deduce all those things, you think? Perhaps more to the point, why is she here, Mr. Shrooms' suit? Oh, silly me, I haven't introduced myself, have I? It is a great pleasure to meet you both. My name is Iris Wilson. I live together here together with Fury. Ah, Iris, was it? What a lovely name. What? What's the matter? No, wait, this can't be! Did you say your name was Wilson? Watson, sorry. No, it's Wilson Watson. Let me double check that. No, it's Wilson. What are your names? Oh, I'm Saki Naruto, lawyer from Japan. Oh, sorry. I'm Miss Naruto's judicial assistant, no Mikotaba. It's wonderful to meet you. Lovely. Sui and Bruno. Got it. Sui and Bruno. Shortest girl that meets the eye. I have so many questions for her. I don't know where to start. Yes! And that's I. And I saw a violin. I want to examine that violin right now. I've seen pictures of Western musical instruments. Like this. It's called a violin, isn't it? Where's this, Mr. Sholmes? This is renowned for its violin playing. Oh, really? It's explained in the stories. It's inspirational now. Inspirational. I mean, you start in the koto, which was the closest Japanese string instrument I could find. Oh, shame you couldn't bring it with you to London. Oh, yes. Well, Papa was beaming when I asked him if he could buy me one. Alright. Wow. Yes, I've only practiced when I was. No, it's mere not. It's a very awkward conversation. What's the percent? Wow, the right side of the room is completely different from the left side of the room. There's a huge typewriter there! Typewriter. It's a machine that allows you to write on paper without needing a pen. But it's really quick too. This would be very useful for someone like me with her Bible. Yeah, the room in the right side of the room is just complete. It's charming little white shells full of little balls too. Yes, but don't touch any of those. They may explode. Oh. Explode? Are these acidic chemicals? Do you use them for exciting experiments? Yes, indeed. And as Hughes always says, chemistry is an explosive science. I think we could trigger an explosion. Oh, I probably meant it literally. Anyway, mental note. Do not touch any bells that belong to Iris. So therefore, I wrote down notes. Interesting. Let's see. Black Peter. What does that mean? You want to hear what Iris has said now, I'll come back to that blackboard later. What does that mean? With beautiful English, he said. Constantly arranged. It's a favorite pastime of mine. A cup of herbal tea in the afternoon. Herbal tea. Herbal tea. Eating herbs? That's right. I grew all sorts of herbs in the garden. So I can experiment with different blends. But don't go away. I'll burst. A pot of special blend that came up early night. I only hope it's safe to drink. Looks like a huge mouth chest. Wow, that poor chest. Seems quite sturdy. With an equal sturdy block. I don't know. You mustn't go around opening things. I always have 9, don't I? Very mischievous. Calculation. Ooh, that chest! Contains some of my most valuable things. And the smell tells me you're not going to give us any clue on what they are. Let's check the knife. I do like the fireplace. It's one of the best things I've seen since we arrived in this country, in fact. Lingering beside the fire and watching the flames flicker and a dance in the grate. It's so relaxing. You can't relax. Now there's many things in the metal place. Oh! It's just as described in the stories. It is? Yes, exactly. Inside the person's slipper, for example. Alright, chocolates for evidence. And transfixed by a large jackknife is my shopping list for the market. Oh. Oh, it's not quite how I remember describing the mentioned Sherlock Holmes. Where's the thumb? She looks crushed. Mr. Shu, a curious hammer, and some mysterious dancing men. A bust of Napoleon. Oh, one of them It's an interesting collection. It's the first time I've seen a no shoe displayed as an ornament. Oh, those are all mementos that Huey has collected in his past from his past cases. Oh, really? Even the bust? Yes, that's right. When the mood ticks him, he likes to throw it on the floor and smash it to dust. The poor, defenseless emperor. Mr. Sholmes destroyed it? Destroys it? Yep, and then he buys a new one. I make it sound like he has a temperament of the same sculptures. How interesting. Bohemian of him. Oh, that's a thing? What on earth is that huge over-the-top machine? That's the Great Ace Scope. It can analyze anything. Really, anything at all. That's absolutely incredible. So when Hughes offended, it took him a whole year. He said I'll help him with his investigation. What sort of things has he analyzed with? Do you know? Actually, he hasn't used it for anything yet. Oh. Not. Apparently, on the evening event he completed, it suddenly occurred to him. I don't actually have anything I need to analyze. Oh dear. How would you know? Do you have anything you like to analyze? The only thing that springs to mind is this machine itself. A globe! There's all sorts of things on the shelves. Chemistry apparatus, books, papers, and lots of things I've never seen before. It's all heaped up so high. I can't help a feeling that the whole thing is going to topple at any moment. I keep telling Huey not to cram so many things up on those shelves. Good advice. He wanted to look something up in one of those books a while ago. It was so tightly wedged in, he couldn't get it out. So he went and bought a new copy instead. Good buy for the book. I believe we've summed everything in this place. Yes. Usual spiel. Alright, could I show you this? How is any? What is it? Tell me about it. Oh, actually, I was hoping you might be able to tell us something about it, if anything comes to mind. I would. Well, no, I suppose it would. Tell me! I want to hear everything. This hasn't gone according to plan. Oh, okay. Same one. Oh, it's just everything's just updating for me. It's a bit early for Genshin. Oh, okay. Oh, okay. That is shooting around yesterday, wasn't it? At the LPLA? Yes, that's right. You were absolutely helpful. Thank you very much. Oh no, not at all. I'm so sorry that we couldn't have been. We couldn't have been more welcoming. Well, at the time, you did have a rather large gun pointed at us. Oh, she's got the gun! Like this? Ah, take it back now. You live in this last trade in tow, didn't you? Oh yes, that awful business. Getting a last trade. Oh, Guinea? Yes, she's a professional pickpocket. So we found out. It was very naughty of her to pinch my invention like that. Are you referring to the child disruption gun-like contraption? Exactly. The father, see, took it back. Perhaps I should pick up by fitting a self-destruct mechanism in my invention. This girl looks dangerous. Anyway, I brought Guinea back here after that, so she could apologize to my trusty technician. Sorry, your technician. Really, of course, city. Really? Yes, Herlock. Herlock Jones. We live here together. I had no idea that great detectives had such a interesting long melee. Daughter? Not likely. What? I wouldn't call him Huey if he is my father, would I? Well then, what's your relation with Mr. Jones? Well, I expect you find that a lodging of any kind in London is far expensive. Solution is to share the cost of a partner. A roommate. Your roommates. I hope you don't mind me asking, Iris. How old are you? 10 at least at last this year. Well, what are your mother and father? Oh no. They're not around. Oh, I see. I wonder what the story is there. Oh yes! There's something I must ask you. Of course. Go ahead, Susie. I'm very great fan of The Adventures of Sherlock Holmes and... Oh, you have a guard around this magazine. Yes, I read every issue, and it delivers all the way to Japan on a ship. Oh, this is so exciting! My stars are being read on the other side of the world! My stories? That's right. Huey's always solving such many cases, you see. And he tells me about them. Really quite fascinating. They really are quite fascinating. It would be a shame. It's such a shame if I was the only one who ever heard them, don't you think? Rudeness. Last night, he was telling me about a new case he just solved on a steamship traveling from faraway land. So I was in the midst of typing up the manuscript for the next issue before you came. So your audio offer? Yes, I'll let you know in secret if you can. I'm gonna call the latest adventure The Speckled Bad. Oh, it's not like we just did a chapter about that last week called that. Speckled Bad? That's certainly very familiar. Of course, I always change one or two details in the story, here and there. This time, I had the idea of making a venomous snake to be the cause of the problem. Oh, that was Mr. Jones' first one as well, actually. Yes! And of course I knew that the snake might not be a critter fit for the facts of the case exactly, but... It's a story. Some poetic license to justify to make it more thrilling, I think, don't you? So, do you mean to say our stories have been shown that are published around this magazine are all written by me, yes, on my wonderful and very modern typewriter. But all these stories that I've ever read are written by a doctor of medicine, Dr. John H. Wilson. Yes, well, I don't know why I took a blank on that. So that's how it's getting more and more. Ah, yes, that's me. I mean, my name really is Wilson. But what about the Dr. Medicine part? That's all true too. I am a Dr. Medicine. No, not at 10 years old. At 10 years old. Well, that's quite incredible. But Dr. Wilson is an English gentleman. Ah, yes. I did alter the setting slightly, for the story to be more compelling. Oh. Well, it sounds a little strange, doesn't it? A great detective with a 10-year-old girl in tow? I suppose it does. Yes. Gorgeous, Nathan. It looks like our whole world has just fallen apart. Alright. About before. Yes, what's on your mind, Bruno? Do tell me. How did you know that I was a lawyer? I mean, just arrived in London, I mean. Yes. Oh. I'm gonna have a difficult trial tomorrow. How'd you know all that? Oh. That's what you mean? Please, tell us how you did it. Explain every detail. Of course, I'd be glad. Although, there's really no mystery. Alright, let's begin. Iris Wilson is proud to present our logic and reasoning spectacle. Oh. Alright. First of all, I already knew that you were a lawyer, Bruno. After all, I met you yesterday at the Old Bailey in the defensive antechamber. She also said we only just arrived to London. How'd you know that? I saw the passport and ticket for leaving from your breast pocket. Oh. So I can realistically confirm that you've only just arrived at the country. On top of that, you accepted a case against that particular prosecutor, telling me that you were all aware of London's court affairs. Reaper at the Bailey. I walked around in that one, didn't I? Then I noticed a red ink stamp on the back of Susie's hand. You were given that when you visited the local prison to meet the suspect, weren't you? Earlier today. Ah! They use the stamps to keep a close eye on coming and going, you see. Didn't realize. And a red stamp is only used for people who are visiting foreign inmates. So that told me that even though you've only had yesterday's conclusion, even though you had only yesterday concluded the trial of Magnus McGilly, the two have already had cause to visit a foreign inmate at a local prison. However, neither of you are wearing a particular suspicion in your case. So I conclude that the prisoner is unlikely to be a friend or relative. Now let me leave. They must have accepted a new case. Let's see. How could you have known that the trial's tomorrow? Well, having barely been home for a few hours today, you solved yet another case. It obviously amused him. He told me he called a Japanese man who was bald and trembling. A Japanese man? Well, clearly that must have been Mr. Natsumi. Bruno. Now Bruno has a fancy Japanese sword. And I think your outfit is called a kimono. Isn't it, Susie? Well, anyway, it's clearly mean that you both come from Japan yourself. I put two and two together and decided you must be the defending Japanese man here you call. And there's only one conclusion those facts could lead me to. We both came here to ask you about the kiss. Damn, she's good. There's no note in the manifest that says that the trial will be tomorrow. He was always stabbing himself with a knife, you know. He is silly. And that's all there is to it. What's to it, really? Thank you for listening. I'm Iris Wilson, and that was one of my great deductions. Damn, she's good. Well, hi. Was the winner? Was the deductions correct? They were spot on. That's so amazing, Ash. Truly a great deduction. Even managed to certain something of Mr. Shroom's delivery. Oh, I was just copying Huey's style for that. This is really good news. You tell us all about the kiss involving the Japanese man? You will, won't you, Iris? Please. Okay. So yesterday, Mr. Shrooms apprehended a Japanese man, you were saying. Huh. So you say, yeah. Yes. Shuri had just arrived back in London after a sea voyage. But the police were waiting for him at the railway station to take him directly to the crime scene. Ah. The great detective is a popular man, it seems. Apparently a woman was stabbed on a quiet street somewhere in town. That's where witnesses... There are witnesses who have seen a short, shifty-looking stooped man running away from the scene. Short, shifty-looking stooped man. Listens to me beyond any doubt. Suki-san said he didn't see anyone else on the street alone. But it seems there were witnesses after all. He uses good deduction powers to determine the man's address. It was a lodging room, very nearby. He went directly there with the police. What did they find? A short, shifty-looking stooped man shivering in fear. Mrs. Shroom's great deduction certainly hits the mark that time. Oh, of course he did. He's a great detective. Still, that means the incident occurred only 2 days ago. Surely tomorrow is too soon for chat listening. Definitely. We have no time to investigate properly. Here he says that London is rife for crime. Oh. So Scotland Yard is doing its best. But they can't stay on top of it, apparently. Oh dear. I haven't realized that the situation was so dire. That's why they can't afford to that's why we can't afford to spend too much time investigating cases and trying criminals in court. Staff familiar, both short. Crime is usually pinned on the first suspicious person. That's terrible. I suppose it's a harsh reality of the workings of the world's greatest justice system. I suppose it is, but in that case, I don't hold out much hope for Suzuki-san. Thank you for answering so many of our questions, Iris. It's been very informative. Oh, you're most welcome. I've had so much fun. Do you happen to know where Mr. Shrooms is at the moment? As you guess, we'd like to ask him some questions about this case as well. Ah, well, I expect you is still investigating the scene. Of the case of all misunderstanding, you mean? Yes, Mr. Natsume? Yuri said he's going to be at the man's lodging. If you leave now, you'll probably catch him there. Ash, do you know what those legends are? Well, I imagine the police are still investigating the scene of the crime themselves, aren't they? Did you happen to come across a detective by the name of Grayson? While you were there? Yes, we know Inspector Grayson. Oh, goody, in that case. Get Gracie this for me, would you? Do that? I'm sure he'll tell you what you want to know. What's this? A 5-shilling piece on a postcard. It seems. Arson's. Oh. It reads, tell the gentleman in black whatever he wants you to know. I trust that won't be a problem. Gosh, this will make the inspector helpless, will it? Well, thank you, Ars. We'll give it a try. Good luck, then. I'm going to return to writing my manuscript. The Speckled Bond. And I'll be making more special blends of tea, so come back again soon. We'll be delighted. Thank you so much, Iris. Well, Miss Naruto, back to the scene of the crime. So, somewhat dubious that they search any influence over the man Scotland Yard at all. We head back to the scene of art. This curious note on one of the world's heaviest silver coins in my hand. Oh. Okay. 19th of February, 2:38 p.m. Barrow Road. The leaders of the police are still here, carrying on with their investigation. Alright, so let's find Inspector Grayson as quickly as possible. Yes, and let's see if he takes a break from his chips to get a silver tip Iris give us for. Okay. Inspector Grayson, you have a moment. Sorry to say I don't. I'm a very busy man. Much too busy to talk to a pair of foreign gagabytes. That's for sure. You have these for you. A present from Miss Iris Wilson. What? For me? From her ladyship? Her ladyship? Give it here at once! Go on, hand it over. That's for me. Ah! Don't wait for me to give it to you. What was this a coin exactly? It's a silver coin, obviously. But it's a lot more than that. It's, well, it's an appearance fee. That's what it is. An appearance fee? Oh, I see. You mean... That's right. For the adventures of Herlock Sholmes. The ship offers me a little financial reward for featuring me. Every time. Yes, of course. I know about your exploits, Inspector. I read them avidly. Of course, using my name without my sense so does make me the butt of all unpleasant jokes it seems. I'm so sorry, Inspector. That must be difficult for you. Never mind you that. So, what do you want to know from me that? Sorry? Tell the gentleman in black what he wants to know. I trust that won't be a problem, it says. Well, obviously it's not a problem. Go on, fire away. What do you want to know? Well, you wouldn't mind, Inspector. We found a select new address of Mr. Nasumi's lodgings. Ah. A little knife-wielding mustache Japanese fellow. He lives in the right Ohar. It's over there, look. On the first floor of the house in the corner where that wrecked bicycle popped up. That's very nearby. That is very nearby indeed. If I remember rightfully, the landlord is Mr. John Garrett. Right, well. If you see her again, make sure you give her relationship my regards, you hear? I mean it. You tell her that Grayson sent his very best wish. Don't worry, Inspector. We will. Goodbye for now, then. And long live her leadership. Well, he told us what we wanted to know before he left. Yes, then shall we go and see if we can find Mr. Nasumi's lodgings? Definitely. Good location. Mr. Nasumi's lodging. Holy crap, why is there a cat in this room? May I help you? Yes. Would this be the resident of Mr. John Garrett? Indeed it would, sir. And who may I say is calling? My name is Ryunosuke Naruhodo. I am, Mr. Naruhodo is representing Mr. Susaki Nasumi. I believe he takes lodging here? We would very much like to ask him some questions about our client. One moment, please. I shall convey the message to Mr. Europe. Do you see that, Mr. Susano? This is that's what's real life English made. I know, as I understand, anyone standing in English society employs a number of household staff. That's the first time I've ever seen one in the flesh! Oh, this day keeps getting better. It certainly feels like we're really right now, doesn't it? We need only to meet a butler and the experience will be complete. Well, I'm not sure if I'll go that far, but I understand the sentiment. Thank you for waiting. Mr. Grab will see you now. This way. Holy sh... This is a full-size cannon. What's it doing here? Oh my, it's real. I thought it might be a replica. That old thing? Bah. That's a little more than a toy. Sorry? The owner just fell will stand off and right heart, so I decided to give it a new home. Never know when the enemy might strike next. Jolly useful for a cannon run these days. Really isn't overkill. The part I always say. You never know when. What's this twisted? Yeah, you never know what this twisted world is going to throw you next, boy. Oh, do you think there may be trouble brewing, Mr. Grant? What was this? Take Joan here. Never fails to have a clean apron in reserve. Dries him with a barrel, you see? Dries him very well on the calendar. They dry very well on the calendar. June tells me. Rather person point, I feel. It's been reduced to a drying rack. And one of the huge can looks like it's hanging his head in shame. I notice you have a pile of books there, Mr. Crab. Do you enjoy reading? Ever experienced London Winter Boy? The nights are long. No better way to pass the time than in front of the fire with a jelly good book. Oh, there's a copy of Randa's magazine here, I see. Look at Mr. Crab enjoys the adventure of Herlock Shrooms too. The Great Detective has a many group of followers, it would seem. This stallion from first looks very innocent, isn't it? It's clearly been looked well after, though. That old thing? Not much better than our rags, really. Oh. Well, that's a murder crap in my retirement bash, you know. But I am not one for dwelling in the past. Me would have gladly flown it, but you know how it is. Anyway, doesn't have to have an old piece of memory really lying around, does it? Oh, I see. Perhaps we should leave the past in the past. That looks like a medal of honor and a showcase on a very grand banner. Yes, it's displayed with some pride, I would say. Although it bothers me that it's not straight. What, that old thing? Sorry. Oh, I think I skipped something. Oh, no. I should be glad to see the back of it, but the general would turn his grave eyes. It was the best place for it. Get the bail. Leaving out of my way. So, it's just been polished to shine by accident. There appears to be an inscription in the medal itself. Look. Let me see. It says, for distinguished participation. Sounds like the kind of honors even I can get in line for. Well, one doesn't like to blow one's own trumpet. But we're given that my time in the army. I can't measure an officer by the number of the medals on his name, of course. Common knowledge in military circles. Look at that enormous screen! Must have been put there deliberately, surely. Yes, it certainly seems like someone's trying to hide something from you. What's behind it, I'm gonna have a very quick look. Just a little big. Maybe let's not, Mr. Sana. I'm thinking it's going to have head us off with a cup of tea. The window looks like the barren road, where a young woman was attacked. Yes, I can make the police on the far side of the room investigating the crime scene. The glass is a little murky, isn't it? I can't see very clearly. Is this thing open at all under? I shouldn't underestimate the bitterness of a London winter, sir. Sorry. As soon as you open that window, the tea will freeze in the pot. No Londoner will go opening the window at dusk in the middle of winter, I assure you. It seems very every day you would see anything innocent then. Oh wow. That old candle holder looks a little out of place here, wouldn't you say? Yes, you're right. It's clearly supposed to be gold, but it's almost completely black for some reason. That old thing, yes. Just a cheap price of ironmongery. Ring cracked, really. Oh. These are what I'm studying, don't you know? For my commissions. You know, I know it's old, hardly worth hanging on to, really. But, well, it still has its uses sometimes. Of course. Does everything in this room have some clever story behind it? Their memories, Mr. Naruto. memories. Look at this crockery on display here. It's rather unusual, isn't it? Oh my, a genuine London dresser! Isn't that delightful? Although the shells seem to be broken, and the crockery is, oh dear, it's in pieces. It really is. The word cracked when you chant the word justice. Ah! I wonder. Perhaps the cannon was fired at it. Yes, perhaps something got. But not like that. Delve too deeply here. Oh, look! What a wonderful collection of kicks lined up in the gleaming silver kickstand. Up, looks more like someone has half the mileage than for me. After drinking tea, time of indulgence, you know. It's quite the English way. It is Mr. Garrett's custom to take 2 kicks with his tea. Sounds delightful. Oh, wait a minute though. There's at least 10 kicks on this kickstand. Well, naturally, I would never do to waste the leftovers. So whatever gets, whoever doesn't eat, I say to myself, "Shun, you shall have to tell you, how magnificent of you, magnanimous of you." There's a lot of stuff we can investigate here. A portrait of Mr. Garrett is glaring at me, I swear. You notice that all the little frames contain photograph prints of Mr. Garrett as well? Yes, and there seems to be a statue of a lion in the mantelpiece as well. Okay. Ah, yes. Seems to come back. And the local pawnbroker with that little trinket. Okay, seems to come back. What do you mean? The chap who runs the place is a balding wizard. Went in to see something came up with that thing. A point of fact, now that I think about it, I rather often find myself leaving that place with something I don't need. The land ornament certainly does surplus to requirement. The Senator doesn't pull her punches. Or throws for that matter. Are those mortar shells? They're enormous! Ah, I never was. What are you doing here? Those little things? A couple of little rounds I accidentally fired into the barracks during training, you know? Became a bit of a colorful regiment folklore, that incident. You mean, you deliberately hunted out the spent shells? Well, I wouldn't say deliberate, exactly. They're only scrap iron after all. Usually just thrown away, I believe. But you never know when things might come useful, do you? Useful for you? Useful for what, exactly? Yes. Well, Joan here did manage to knock one of the belly things on my foot the other day while she was dusting. Oh no! I haven't said this here since 1869 before then, you know? Maybe we consider throwing them away. Oh, it's your stamp. 3, John Cutter, at your service. Pleasure to meet you, sir. This is Ryusaku Nahoro. He's a defense lawyer. You excuse me for not getting up. took a shot to the knee a few years back in the battle of Manwald, you know. Earned a medal from appearance, but had to withdraw from service. Handed over the reins to the up-and-comings. So he's a retired soldier. So it's a hell of a job getting up and down the stairs now. I can tell you. Don't get out much, as you can imagine. Yes, it's quite a climb up here to the second floor, isn't it? I was panting at the top of the stairs. You really must take more exercise, Mr. Harlow. Do you think so too? Oh, Mr. Rapp, no doubt you were far courageous to urge up Mal. Sorry. No, I'm tired. Oh, it was nothing. Just a medal of fuller roll, really. We'd like to offend the general, though. So I grudgingly displayed it on the wall. Why don't you fetch it down, June? Give these good people see. Let these good people see it properly. June, fetch that yarn. Dash it, old woman. Be careful. Oh, get me. I do beg your pardon, sir. June, Nico took the skin off my hands. I should be more careful, sir. So anyway, there you have it. Living the quiet life now. Yes. Let's see. Now then. I hear you want to know about the shop. But the shop is lunch in the search, is that right? Yes, we'd be very grateful if you could answer some questions for us. Only two, please, naturally. Especially it helps keeps the peace here in Frankly. We have forged an alliance with the Empire of Japan recently, as I'm sure you're aware. This case is very much in the public eye, as it were. Oh, is it? Even had some famous detective poking around. You know, in this old house, would you believe? Yes, Mr. Helicopter Jones. Not bad. Then cast the chaps to the M. Not really my cup of tea, all the detective business. Oh, but you do have a crowd around my scene here, so. No. Anyway, the chap's investigating the vulner's room as we speak. So he's in his room. It's a bally nonsense, isn't it? The whole neighborhood's twitching its curtains now. I don't like all the fuss. It's jolly unsettling. About assuming then, crap. Please do tell us. Ah, yes, Johnny Chan. We've been lodging here for a week. Oh, just 1 week. So he moved in recently then. I have two lodgers most of the time. One on the ground floor and one on the one just below us. Oh. Right, the first room became available a week ago. You see, there's an Yarg! That's an old room. Do be careful. Oh my gracious, I'm tired as hard, sir. Yeah. If you want to know my opinion, I thought he was a shitty sort from the moment I set eyes on him. Oh, why? He seems to have the most nervous disposition, always shaking and looking over his shoulder. That man has shitty writing all over his sweat-soaked. True, if you ask me. I said to myself, June, that man's in trouble. Sooner, he's going to do something untoward. And I'm really wrong about anything. We wouldn't be calling this mid as a witness. That's for sure. Is there anything else that struck you as suspicious about the man at all? Oh yes, indeed there was. And she's down the tails. Have you noticed anything else about your lodger, Mr. Natsumi? Oh my word, yes! That man was cheater than an orchard. Could you elaborate? Well, take the man's room. Absolutely stuffed full of books. There it is. More than anyone could ever read. And he's never so much as passes the time with another living soul. I haven't even seen a visitor call. A single visitor call. He just trotted off to that old bookshop every day and comes back with at 5 to light the gas fire. And the funny little man is up long past the time everyone else is in the house is gone to bed too. Oh, I see. The gentleman on the ground floor goes to bed at around 9 each night. But I've never known that Japanese fellow to retire any earlier than 2 in the morning. Ah. Could you clarify something, I wonder? What, Frey? How do you know so much about Natsumi's routine? Oh! I understand that near the lodgers live in this floor of the house, is that correct? That's right, yes. They're both below us. On the first floor and street level. And how did you know so much about the lives of your lodgers? The precise time that they come back in the evening, for example. Even the times they go to bed. Guard! Gregor, be more careful. Oh, good gracious, sir. I'm terribly sorry, sir. Something doesn't add up here. It seems that the incident took place at around 5 in the evening. You happen to look at the window around that time? The window? Yes. We noticed that the window went over there looks out over Barrow Road. The incident took place on the pavement just on the far side of the street. Was there anyone suspicious loitering nearby? 5 o'clock is dinner time in the Garb household. So I'm afraid I don't remember seeing anything. How about you, June? No, sir. It would have been dust aside already at that time. And the fog as well. I think it would have been quite impossible to see the other side of the road. I can see. You notice anything else out of the ordinary then? Such as anything at all, even if it seems unrelated? Well, yes. Was there something then? Well, it's not an insignificant. It's sort of time that. Arrgh! Oh my God, June! Watch what you're doing. Well, it's not a particular thing, but around that sort of time, there. Oh, there me. What have I done? I'm terribly sorry, sir. Do be a more careful one. Of course, sir. If I may, Mr. Naruholo. Oh, yes. I have a seemingly good memory, as far as I remember. Nothing of any significance took place at that hour. Nothing at all. Oh, really? Mr. Garrett? What you're talking for? It sounds strange that there might have been. Oh, well, as I was saying, it was just a matter of really nothing. June, dash up! What's the matter with you? Beg your pardon, sir. Nothing happened. Yes, quite. Nothing happened. We sat down to quite an unfashionable meal. Not you. That's right, Mr. Guy. What is the matter with these two? It sounds like something happened here in this room. Oh, on the evening of this incident, but what? I wish I knew. Oh, could you tell us which floor Mr. Semi's room's on? Why, certainly. It's below us on the first floor. And Mr. Shrooms is investigating there, even as we speak. Yes. Told me Nats's name had asked him to look into the matter, so I gave him the key. Is assuming he has engaged Mr. Schuman's services? That's a blatant lie. Would either of you also have a look around in this Mr. Sammy's room, I mean? Don't see why not. It's just down one flight of stairs. Who knew if we find anything that could help us with the case? We'll have to try. We need all the clues we can lay our hands on, shall we? Yes, I'm over here. There. We can spend the Mr. Jones again. Perhaps he'll be able to tell us more. Look out. Okay. Is that a slick cat there? 19th February, Mr. Simi's room. Yo, that's a cat! What? Just look at this. Holy. Also, that's a lot of books. And smell it. It's so musty in here. I suppose it's the amount of books that are responsible for that. I don't think I've ever seen so many books in my life, in all my life. No, me neither. It's so dark in here too. Is that a window over there? Well, it was a window, I think. Yes, once upon a time. For some reason, it's been closed up with bricks and mortar. So this is where Mr. Siri lives. By the way, I haven't spoken to Mr. Schum. Haven't spotted Mr. Schum's anywhere, have you? No, that's true, but according to Mr. Grab told us, the great detective should be around here somewhere investigating. He's in the books, isn't he? Can we pet the cat? No, come back, cat! Wait, what if they're a little cat? Perhaps he's looking up at the books while his master's away. I don't know about that. He disappeared into that pile of books as quick as a flash. It was a tricolor monkey, wasn't it? Okay, wasn't it? Didn't even have that sort of cat here in Britain. Perhaps Mr. Natsumi brought this little creature with him from Japan. That makes me feel homesick now. Already? We've only been in the country for 2 days. Oh, come back, cat! Alright. There's balls of paper on the floor. There's no scroll over them. In English! It looks like the waste book is so full they just fallen out. I think Mr. Simi must have been deeply immersed in his research, don't you? Or deeply averse to that process. I wouldn't like to speculate while it's closer to the truth. Look at all those books stacked up there. It's almost reaching the ceiling. They're all works of English literature. They all smell so musty. This volume of books in hand, you'll never be sure of reading materials, would you? No. What a dreamy idea. A bad dream, maybe. For me, at least. Mind you, I don't imagine the books that at the bottom of the pile now will ever be read again. So reading is an experience that comes but once in a lifetime. Just as the tea ceremony teaches us. I certainly expect the conversation to turn down the path of ceremonial philosophy. Oh look! It's a big and cavern poem. It's big and bulky, isn't it? Surely Mr. Nasami did bring that Manakat Hinako all the way from Japan with him. I hardly think you're in a position to comment, Mr. Naruhodo. Aren't you forgetting a certain enormous Dharma doll that you brought to your luggage? Well, it can be dangerous traveling abroad. I want a lucky charm. Well, I imagine Mr. Natsumi wanted to see him. And this cat is sure to bring good luck to him. Not doing a very good job so far, is it? You mustn't say such things. I didn't say a word. Why are my eyes such a giveaway? This seems to be wedged into the crevice between the books on either side. I don't know what's going on me here. I suppose Mr. Simi would sit there and read while stroking his cat. But surrounded on all sides by these towering tomes, surely he dreams of books every night as well. Yes, he must have done. Mustn't be? Oh! What's this? A receipt from a second-hand bookshop. Your books. Oh yes, Mr. Simi. Name is on it. And look at the date of the purchase. 2 days ago at 4:45 p.m. That's the day of the incident. That's just a short while before he was embroiled in the terrible attack. He must have been on his way back from buying books. Some more books. Could you even call this window? I think so. It was a window one time, after all. So, although all that remains is just a frame around some bricks now. So really, it's just a wall there. Why would anyone deliberately brick it up like that? I'm afraid I have no idea. Ah! Perhaps Mr. Sony painted it, break the sign in a fit of whimsy. That's not really feasible. Anyway, whatever the reason, the lack of ventilation here makes the place quite oppressive. Thus, I imagine being cooped up in like this would be extremely trying. Anything else, Mitz? Their homes, where are you? How did I miss? Why the hell did you get? Ah, look, he wasn't nerfed before, by the way. Huh, there he is. Where did he appear from? He seems encroaching the pages of a notebook. I hope he wouldn't mind if he disturbed it. Hello, Mr. Jones. Ah, you two. Good day. Jeez, he's there. I see. Where was it we have met? Oh, Mr. Jones, we were together in the SS Borough. Yes, of course, the Borough. Let me see. What happened on the voyage? It was Kazuma Osugi. He died tragically. You were a good help to us. Ah, yes, of course, the kiss of Mr. Osugi. Oh, please let the Twitch thumbnail be this guy. And it was the one with the snake, was it? Oh. Well, you seem to remember something of it at least. What an honor to be remembered vaguely by the great Mr. Herlock Sholmes. This is Mr. No, my dear madam. Hold your tongue. I pride myself on my superior power of recollection. Your names are safely recorded in my brain, Alec. Miss Naruhodo. Mr. Sasoro. Let them run, you're good. Try the other way around, Mr. Sholmes. I lost the first round. In truth, I hope to invite you both to my big nursery suite the day we arrived in London. But some Scotland Yarders ambushed me at the railway station and whisked me away to a crime scene. It was an entirely trivial case, of course. I thought the matter no more than 30 minutes. They apprehend Sasaki in that short of a amount of time? I'm afraid the pursuits of new cases dulled my recollection of my past involvements a little. A little. It is a mistake to think that once Rain Alec has aesthetic walls and can disdain to any extent. I'll do my best to forget useless facts, at least they should elbow at useful ones. Yes, those are my own words of imitable wisdom. You know, from the adventure entitled The Study of Scarlet. A Study in Scarlet. Please, there's no need to quote yourself. Don't you always... I don't always remember a puzzle wisdom, but fortunately, my associate bends them beautifully. It means Iris, I suppose. So, Sholmes, we have some extremely important questions we'd like to ask you about the trivial case you just mentioned. Goodness, what an earnest expression. My dear madame, you should be only too pleased, and this murky room is an apt place to discuss the murky case. Murky must... Yeah, it was murky. No, please. Despite aspersion to the contrary, I'm a professional. No. If I am to unleash any of my deduction power on that trinket, I must ask for a sum of £3 in cash. Oh crap, that's more... Okay, that's an expensive part. Oh, I didn't need any additions. I was just wondering if you might know Miss Naruhodo, as a profession, I insist that if my opinions on that trinket, I must ask for a sum of £3 in cash. I believe Mr. Sholmes has his eye on a spent copy of the completed works of Shakespeare. Yes, to stand on the stage amidst rapture applause. It has long been a dream of mine, as you know. Literally had no idea. Ah, the receipt for the books our soup Japanese friend purchased. I uncovered that yesterday morning. A murder slide, we didn't agree. Oh, yes, truly, the work of a truly great detective. What a scatterbrained individual he must have left it behind. Curiously, there is no mention of this publication on the receipt. Odd, when you consider how fascinating it is. You mean that everyone in London buys around this magazine every time they visit the shop? Yes, odd indeed. Oh, sorry. Oh, Mr. Sholmes. I expertly usurped that into the conversation. Ah, I'm glad you agree. Detective stories can be a group work literature too, my dear fellow. I really can't remember how I got to, what was the way we had the attitude wise. You know, this used to be the law. This is the law of a foreign Japanese man by the name of Mr. Suzuki Nasumi. It seems that you assert in his arrest, Mr. Sholmes, for the stabbing of a young woman outside here in Burr Road. Nasumi. Yes, I believe that was the name of the name rather along those lines. But Mr. Certainly denies it. Is it really justifiable to arrest him on so little? I'm sorry, Mr. Sano, but I have not the slightest idea what you mean. What? can't believe he was looking. He was squinting in the eye, being ignorance. I assure you, I'm not merely feigning ignorance. It would appear as if the of you are under some misapprehension. Oh, hi. I assure you, I have no recollection of accusing your stooped compatriot of the crime. But that doesn't make any sense. A good detective of Scotland Yard made the following request to me, and I wrote further, screw that word. We need you to ascertain the identity and whereabouts of a man fleeing from the crime scene. Ah, the man seen fleeing. There were a number of books scattered on the pavement at the scene. From the bookplate, I was quickly able to determine the bookshelf from which they had been purchased. While speaking with the perpetrator, I immediately led to this address. Elementary, wouldn't you say? I believe there was a receipt around here somewhere from the establishment in question. So you don't think Mr. Sumi is the culprit then? That I could not tell you. It was a rather aggravating my facilities, hence why I returned here. However, this place is such a trove of fascinating books. I found myself lost in its bibliography. Bibliography. Nah. Bibligo out of screw it. Why am I screwing up? I'm just screwing up words today. Do not be deceived into believing that I am a man of lecture. No, no, no. Oh dear. Ah, tell me. Have you encountered the landlord in these legends? Yes, Mr. Crab, a retired military man. It was the first time I've ever met a soldier from the great British institution that is the service. And it was the first time I've ever met a maid from the British institution that is serviced. Laughs. I didn't think it was that funny. I do apologize. As you may be aware, many households in London employ me in. Yes! As I read. As much as my Great British Primer. Or Premiere. Premiere, sorry. And so conversely, whether or not a household employs a maid has come to be taken the society standards of those dwelling therein. Taking their social standings? Sorry? But simply, my dear fellow, those who employ at least a single man are considered middle class. Those who not, are beneath that. In the upper echelons of society, of course, households employ enough staff to constitute a large family. Yeah, I think I said that wrong. No, constitute. Yep. Goodness, how extraordinary. As you can apprehend, though, for those on the various boundaries between the middle and lower class, being able to afford just one maid is of the first importance. I had no idea, and it is that precisely that reason that I find great stimulation in the situation upstairs, specifically in the retired army veteran, Mr. John Garrett. Oh. Unfettable as he is, the fellow is hiding something. Whether or not it's imposed on the circumstance of this case, I am as yet unable to ascertain. I very lost what he meant to say. This room is fairly suffocating for the soul, my dear fellow. I assure you, any man who lot in is to dwell in a place such as this will stab somebody sooner or later. Mr. Sammy has stabbed no one. Ah, but sooner or later, as I said. I don't believe that's the issue here. About this dark room, Mr. Sholmes. Why is there no longer a window? Do you have any ideas? No windows? Well, I mean, I can clearly see that there is a window of sorts. But it's been completely blocked by bricks. Ah, I see. The answer to that question is quite simple. Window tax. Window tax? What is that? Surely not a tax on windows. Precisely that. Oh my goodness! That's a thing? Until relatively recently, a tax was leveled on households in this country by the number of their windows. Those of lesser means, having inherited a sizable and costly family home, perhaps, rapidly closed windows up, while the rich opened windows here, there, and everywhere. In an effort to curry favor with those in power by furnishing them with large sums of tax money. Oh, and not just forcing people to live in rooms devoid of light. Indeed. Disease is ripe as a result. Ripe as natural. So some 40 years ago, or thereabouts, the window tax was abolished. But its legacy remains. As you can see, squid lodgings such as these, for example. I suppose Miss Natsumi slip command for living here in London isn't very generous, perhaps. It would appear so. I done a little digging and discovered that these lodgings were offered at an extraordinary low price. Because the rooms are so awful, I think. Apparently, Miss Natsumi only moved here about a week ago. Yes, that's correct. However, I don't believe the low rent is explained by the shabby nature of the accommodation. Oh? Still, that is of little relevance here. A matter not worthy of further attention. Sure, I'm curious now. Well, I believe I told you all I can now. Thank you, Mr. Sholmes. Ah, yes, Mr. Naruto. Was that your intention to become a practitioner of law? You remember that, didn't you? Will you perhaps be offering your service to this very matter, I wonder? To the occupant of this room, Mr. Natsumi, was it? I'm not sure. Not sure? On what grounds? Well, I actually defended someone in court here only yesterday. Really? Well then, I congratulate you, sir, on the ambition you realize, and so promptly too. Thing is, it really made me question things. Am I right to believe my client? To trust in their innocence? Yes, trust. Mr. Sholmes, Mr. Natsumi didn't do it, did he? My dear fellow, I haven't the first idea. Oh, but I thought that's why you were here. Didn't you come back to investigate? Ah, yes, that was my initial intention. But there are simply too many fascinating books here. I couldn't possibly ignore them. Wow. Oh, I see. Nevertheless, there are two facts I can't state quite unequivocally. The man who fled from the scene of the crime 2 days ago was a Japanese occupant in this room, and there was a witness who swore to have seen the same man commit the crime. And that's all I can say. Ah, and one more thing. What is this, Mr. What is it, Mr. Sholmes? Tell us. I cannot say with a certain whether or not it is a family to this, but I'm quite sure that the retired Iron Man who owns this property is hiding something. The garb is Mr. Sholmes said such before, actually, didn't he? Anyway, at present, that's all that plays on my mind in relation to the case. It's not a hurdle, and yet our investigation has uncovered nothing that could help us establish Natsumi's innocence. No, you're right. Perhaps this time we probe a little deeper into Mr. Gap's secret. Just remember, I cannot be sure whether the landlord's secret will prove to be relevant or not. I wish you every success, of course, Mr. Naruto. A busy man indeed. He's gone back to his books in the corner of the room. I see. Yes, he has. Well, we'll leave him. We'll leave him to his books. Oh, hey, they're gone. The aquarium is a grab's room. Ah, you poor again. Oh, he's never mind. They're here. Tell me, what was the detective trap? I forgot the name. Still hard work down there. Was that Sherlock Holmes? Ah, yes. Rings a vague bell. All the detective business is really my thing over it. Well, Mr. Soames is in his element down there. Jolly good show. Another cup of tea, if you please, Miss June. No, then. Why don't you tell me what? Arrgh! For the umpteenth time, woman, what you watch Mr. Billy doing here? I'll be serving dinner shortly, sir. Ah, yes, of course. Regular me, I'm afraid I shall ask you to take your leave, if you be so kind. Yes, of course. We are deeply grateful for your all your assistance. Not at all. Don't get much chance to talk with young boys like yourself. It's been a pleasure. Best luck and all that. Perhaps you can see yourselves out. According to Mr. Sholmes, Scrap is hiding something. And since no other avenues of investigation seems open for someone, perhaps we can do some digging. I think we have summed everything though, haven't we? Why are you in the window? Ah, what's he doing over there? Mr. Sholmes? Ha! We meet again, my dear fellows. Good gracious, when did you sneak in here? My fault exactly. Sherlock Holmes, sir, at your service. Whatever you were doing over by the window, I'm giving the watching the evening sky as the sun sets, madame. And sadly, cheerfully, the room downstairs undoubtedly is lack of aperture for such observation. So I took the liberty of borrowing some more space by the window up here. Well, bullets. Keeping an eye on one window at dusk is a prudent thing to do in London. I'm gathering. Ah, and one other thing, Mr. Naruto. Oh, me? I thought perhaps you might be in need of a certain great detective's great mind. Oh, here we go. Wait, he's not talking about... Is he? Inspector. Be going for that again so soon. You mean it? Do you mean, Mr. Sholmes? There's a mighty secret in the smallest room. My eyes even see even the most trivial trifles. I take it to prepare, Mr. Naruto? Think so. There's just time enough for one of my greatly admired great deductions. Let's conclude the matter before dark. No matter before dark. As a grab, though it would seem you are a military man considered distinct service, your stand as a lord is most certainly not what I call first rate. I'm afraid, sir, that is all too clear to me. There are two conclusions that I have been able to draw by carefully observing your living arrangements. I beg your pardon? The first is that even as we speak, you are conceding the presence of ferocious beasts in your car. Eh? And the second is that the result of the beast's violent rampage, you've lost something very dear to you. Sarah, look! The old man's broken iron cold sweat. Unbelievable. It seems the shroom's conclusion are both spot on. How could you possibly... How could I possibly known? You mean the Inquire? The answer couldn't be simpler, sir. For in the dense jungle of logic and reasoning, I am the king of beasts! Ark! I know only too well that wild beasts are not easily tamed. So, shall we begin? Once again, Sherlock Holmes is proud to present his logic and reasoning spectacle. Great deduction. The game is afoot. Topic 1. Nature of the beast. It certainly shouldn't take a great detective to see that a ferocious beast has been on the rampage of late within these four walls. And thus we face with the question, what form might the beast take? For a man with a military breeding, your eyes are uncontrollably candid. Your fierce glance, Mr. Girl, leads us directly to the answer. The true nature of the beast that runs rampant here is round to the lion statue. Yes. You're an army man, you appear unopposed at best. A fact that you filled your admiration for the mighty lion, the king of beasts. What is prevalent, I ask you? In the end, your admiration became so great, in fact, that you had a living, breathing specimens shipped from India, which you tried to keep in this very house. What? Yet living with such a wild beast proved more difficult than you imagined. A chilling trace of wild rampages are still very much in evidence. Well, yet as we look around, the beast question fails to present itself. Where could this angry creature disappear to? Madame? Me? I pray you do not consider me unchivalrous, but it is plain to me with one glance at your direction. Your chest pocket gets us the handsome clues as to the beast's current whereabouts. And from the print of his hand-built advertising a circus show. Yes. You sought to dispose of this terrifying lion, Mr. Garrett. At Bally's Circus. A traveling show currently sold in the nearby park. I have observed the tents. You sold the savage lion to the circus troupe. I most certainly did not. I believe I made my point. The fearsome beast which ran amok in this room was an Indian lion. And a simple visit to the circus will now refill the lion prancing jubilantly for a ring of fire. Conclusion. A rampaging exotic lion. Number 2. Aftermath. Now, Mr. Gert, it is plainly clear that you still have a deep feelings for this formidable beast. Indeed, the battle of pose, the stress, this loss had to cause fate detangable. Your head weighs heavily on your shoulders. The pain you feel reveals that by that supporting arm. Amidst bitter tears, you let your beloved beast go. The strain of losing something important to you is clearly visible for your visage. Nonsense, man. I simply... But what? We must ask ourselves, is the true cause of this pain? And we need only follow the direction of your gaze to find the answer. Yes! It's this pile of bills that must give rise to the pain you suffer. Every envelope contains another living man for payment. Ah. For cuts of loads of meat, potatoes, wheat, and tea. Indeed, feeding your beloved love has had a devastating impact on the financial circumstances of your household. And so you had no choice but to let it go. Now, in the final fatal raid, the ferocious beast carried out one last unimaginable attack. Unimaginable? The aftermath, which we can clearly see by the observing the carpet over there. A very expensive woolen carpet, if I'm not mistaken. What do you mean? What could have caused such destruction? First. This time, madame, I'm afraid it is you who inadvertently revealed the truth to me. Your wandering eyes are set up upon the answer very neatly indeed. Yes, to explain the dire state of the carpet, we only look at the taro cakes. Ah. There's no creature more dangerous on earth than a beast with an unsatisfied appetite. Was it or was it not once said by a certain noble woman? If they have no bread, let them eat cake. Food is the heart of all tragedies, in fact. Whatever do you mean? Having tried to taste the cake, the beast began to stalk its next prey. I'm sure I need not spell out the nature of this final act of destruction carried out by the beast. There is only one logical conclusion. Worked into a frenzy by hunger, the lion attacked and ate the carpet. The teeth marks on the carpet are the perfect match of a lion I once saw in India. Carpet gnawed by a starving lion? That concludes Helicon's great deduction of this beastly puzzle. Arrgh! What's the matter with you doing? Your pony's got hot tea all over me. Oh, I'm sorry, Mascara. I afraid I didn't notice. My deduction can be sternly sharp. It stands to reason that your cut runneth over. Indeed, my revelations can make people spill tears of times too. Oh. Mr. Sholmes, sorry to butt in again, but could I make an observation? Why, certainly, Mr. Naharu. Why, what is it again? Well, your deduction just now. Do you really think a lion could fit inside a room this size? Indeed, it is only explanation for the facts. The terrifying truth is all often lies beyond the realm of common sense. Wouldn't it make an idea to consider what lies inside the realm of common sense as well? But if an uncaged lion had run amok in the entire room, surely Mrs. Garment would have been hurt, or worse. Ah, you're stuck. No doubt a former town held us only against the beach using a large cannon. I thought you said that they sold the land to the circus. And what about the food? Meat and potatoes are one thing. I don't believe I've ever heard of a land that drinks tea. Ah, my dear Miss Susano, it occurs to me with some regularity that irrespectable of race and breeding, whatever anyone lands and grip in the soil, they are infused with a highly appropriate taste for afternoon tea. Oh, what a glorious notion! We'll do that correction, Moraba. Well then, it's your time to shine again. And this is coming. A slight Massage, that's all Mr. Shrooms' induction needs. You can do it. Excellent! I've been waiting for my trusty partner in induction to step forward, Mr. Naruhodo. We don't even know whether or not this is going to help Mr. Miskias. Still, I'm not sure if it's also right. Whatever the motivation. At least, that's what I want to believe. Let us start again from the beginning. Sherlock Holmes, Logic and Reasoning Spectacle. Course direction. Holden, Mr. Shrooms. Nature of the beast. Rampaging. It's like lion. It certainly shouldn't take accurate detective to see that the version beast had been rampaging of late within these four walls. And thus we are fit. This is the question. What form might the beast take? Ah, a man with military breed. Your eyes are commonly condemned. Your glance, Mr. Crab, leads us directly to the answer. The true nature of the beast runs rampant, revealed in this lion statue, and less correction. They didn't see the lion thing coming. No, but if you observe Mr. Crab's reaction, it certainly seems as though the beast did indeed run amok in this room. Yes! Something seemed with fierce nature. But it can't be a land transporter from India. Was it dead? Let's follow Mr. Crab's keys. This will lead us to the true answer. Oh, we can't save. What's this photograph? Picture Mr. Crab's wedding. Right, doesn't he? Yes, but he coming as bride. Unfortunately, something must have struck the glass directly with his face. What best not? Okay. Right, it's fair. Let's try this.
Take that!
Yo! Is revealed by the newly bride! The true nature of the beast that is rampant here is revealed by the newly bride. I am saving this night. Precisely, Ms. Naruto. No other explanation could possibly fit. Yes, the frame pin picture of your wife, Mr. Crab. And why we lament the fact of her face is obscured. We can still make out her mighty arms. And note the considerable horsepower they must contain. Oh, indeed, surely any woman that's as powerful would be honored to be described as a beast. Honor might be stretching the point. Too late. The fact remains that the beast, which so clearly savaged this room, is your wife, Mr. Crab. Grr! The chilling traces of wild rampage are still very much evident. Well, and yet we look around, the beast question fails to present itself. Where could this angry creature disappear to? Madame? Me? I pray you do not consider me unchivalrous. It is plain to me when glancing in your direction. It is? Your dress pocket gives us handsome clues to the beast's current whereabouts. Or fragile, defenseless woman besides herself. Well, I don't know about fragile. Oh dear. This is quite possibly right. There's no sign of Mrs. Garb anywhere. But it seems to be close to her whereabouts. The loot of the maid is trying to hide. I don't know what this guy possibly could be. Let's try me a little look, Pon. This is for scene condition. This is important. Okay. Oh, hello. You're in a very large ring. Look. It's a sunflower design. There's some on the ring finger of left hand, which means it's surely a wedding ring. Looks like it's there for life. Become. Okay. Let's go this then. Take that!
Take that!
Your wedding ring! Guess it's a hunter clue where the beast's current whereabouts. Your wedding. Let's go to the beast's whereabouts. Ah! Indeed it does! The flowery band gleaming on your fingers, give it away! For the identity of the one shown in the hand, Mr. Garrett's pride in his photographic print. In other words, you're no ordinary housemaid. No. You are Mr. Garrett's lucky bride. You are Mr. Garrett himself. Go on. That's the first one. Well, jolly fine detecting, sir. As you regularly surmise, this is my wife. Yes, my June. Rather let herself go, you might say. To the valley, arg! It would appear that you don't live in the most comfortable circumstances. After all, you are a retired Ironman. And yet you are in the business of renting rooms. I would assume, therefore, you have insignificant means to employ a maid. Would that be correct? It's not right, I tell you. I was second lieutenant in the fur regime. A man has a pride, don't you know? By golly, it's a sorry thing when a chap can't even afford to have a single maid in his appointment. Yes, here in London, one is rather judged. A household cannot be considered worthy of society if it employs no staff at all. Though, in my considered opinion, such concerns about appearances are a folly. Mr. Garb has a wife work as his maid? Precisely. Am I right, Mr. Garb? Only in company, obviously. Listen here. This must remain a secret. Tip-top secret, please. The raging wife of Mr. Garrett. Solved. That's not the best. Let's solve this. Now, Mr. Garrett. It is pretty clear that you do still have deep feelings for this formidable beast. Though in the better pose, the stress this loss has caused you veritable tangle. Your head weighs heavily on your shoulder. Head. Pain you feel being rumbled by the supporting arm. This shows is quite something. He's still calling Mr. Gar's wife a beast. Yes, as a woman, this feels rather uncomfortable. But Mrs. Scarf is standing beside her husband as we speak. In other words, he hasn't lost his love at all, has he? Not sure. Perhaps that's a point. An arm that seems to be freeing up his head. As other stomach is dead. When Mr. Jones, Mr. Gar's pain is tangible though. Oh, this is really simple. Oh. Ouch! Man, look at the bright red mark. That's quite something. Completely made by someone's hand. Yes, Mr. Garb has been slapped in the face. It seems hard. I've never seen such a clearly defined mark. Never could have done such a thing. Well, there's a very limited amount of candy, as I say.
Take that!
Your head weighs heavily. Your head weighs heavily on your shoulders. The pain you feel must be revealed by that slapped cheek. And of course, the delivery of that impressive mark on your cheek that refused to fade. Refused to fade. Was you, Madame Gio? Got it? Well, yes. And you have been desperately trying to hide the slap mark on your cheek, sir. How in the blazes did you work it out, man? Nothing gets known as one trained in an act of observation, my dear fellow. That's why you haven't looked directly at us even once. In order to keep your other side from free. Well, Now, let us proceed to the next conundrum. Why were you subjected to such a violent slap? In other words, we must ask ourselves what caused Miss Gab to fly into a rage. But we must only follow the direction of your gaze to find the answer. Yes, it is this pile of bills that can rise to the pain you suffer. Doesn't Jones say the bills were for all landlords? Yes, but we not established that I never assisted, which can only mean that the thing responsible for calling up all the food. This guy's right. So Hardo, she's a person, not a thing. Yes, well, she's also the person to give her husband a mighty slap or in the face. And so hard that it left a perfect hand mark, in fact. Yes, why would a woman want to hit her husband with such force, I wonder? I'd love to know the answer to that question. Ah, someone's reading this book at the moment. Bookmark here, look. This guy was clearly an avid reader. Oh, wait a minute. I don't think that's a bookmark. Oh no, it isn't. It isn't. It's no written by a woman's hand. Oh, James, I love you. Yours, Mary. Ah! Look at the next signature here. Lip marks! Made with lipstick! Oh, that's a passionate and romantic gesture. Don't get any ideas, Susano-san. There, I'm tired of this art. So this mark is actually love note then. There are two things! Oh dear, this plate has been smashed into bits. No one seems to incline to tie up the mess. Perhaps some sort of huge art. Really, Mr. Naruhodo? Well, anyone who has a can display in their living room is clearly a little eccentric. Yes, let's call it eccentric.
Take that!
Yes, it is this love note that has given rise to the pain you suffer. Oh, James, I love you. Yours, Mary. Passionate indeed. Perhaps the sender of this note, certainly Miss Mary, is the fly in the ornament here. Grr, why did he... But I don't know the Bali woman. You don't know her? The note wasn't written to me. It's just in a book. I don't know how I got there. It was just in there, you say? That's right. That's what it's... Unlikely story. Now listen here, Jinyo thing. I explained at the time. I bought this book at the second-hand place, and that note must have already been in there. So the previous owner of the book must have been using this note as a bookmark. You mean? That's right. That's what I'm trying to. I like the story. For heaven's sake, look at the name. It's written to Jane. My name is, in case you've forgotten, it's John. I like the story. Are you questioning my name now? And there we have it. I was suspicious of a female heart. You unleashed the beast in them of the most first sprite. Now, in a final fatal race, this first beast carried one last unimaginable attack. Unimaginable? At the match, which can be clearly seen, observing this carpet there, and expensive wooden cloth, if I'm not mistaken. Oh dear me. What could have caused such a destructive outburst? Ah. This time, madame, I'm afraid it is you who inadvertently revealed the truth to me. You wondered I stood upon the answer to this very neatly indeed. Yes, to explain the dire carpet, we need only look at the tower kicks. No. I'm sure your guy didn't eat the carpet. No, of course not. But something doesn't seem to be any dice. And the steadiness in this room is the real suffer her wild temper. Oh, that's true. So, this last part of the show's seduction that we need to fix. We need to follow Mr. Grab's gears, and that will tell us the real answer. Alright, let's see what we see. Yes! There's stuff in there. Shroom seduction. Look here. What is it? Look closer to the edge. You can see scorch marks. Oh yes, you can. In that case, perhaps the carver wasn't eaten in the normal scene at all. Let's rethink this. That man. This looks like a very constant, doesn't it? This looks too small. Looks to me that even this slice and knock would make it topple over. Oh, there. Looks like it might be dangerous. Wait! Take a closer look at this. There's one candle missing. It's definitely in the nose board. Why is that, I wonder? Why is one candle missing on the holder? Advertising from Belfort Circus. Bailey Circus. Valley Circus. It's in the nearby park. Is that the same one we saw earlier? The one full in Miss Garrett's pocket? Perhaps they're with service television. It couldn't be. I mean that the Hunger Land somehow involved again, isn't it? Oh dear. I do hope not.
Take that!
I do think it's the candlesticks. Yes, it is. We only need to look at the candlesticks. Yes! To explain the dire stitch of the carpet, we only need to look at the candlesticks. Most illuminating, my dear fellow. On a course, they only puzzle away out of this logical labyrinth. Yes! The remains of the first attack, well, in which the carpet was the fire, was clearly visible. Indeed they are. The scorch marks on the edge is clearly giving the truth away. Scorch marks? It would appear that this room was the scene of a moral altercation. There's a guard, mighty muscle arms like an impression not only to her husband's face, but one on the entire room. The force of strike caused the count to fall from the folder. And in a second, the carpet was alight. The whole corner of the room is in flames. It's the most vicious beasts in the world, neither in nor pendulum, but fire. In this very room, the ferocious beast bared his claws around muck. Equally picked, my dear fellow, as you see, there's but one conclusion here. After sparking from my marrow discord flew, the room of the scene this room is a scene of a fire. The show's I salute you! Carpet scorched by a small fire. Solved. Deduction complete. Elementary! That was fun. Alright, I'll wrap things up here. Let's see if I can wrap up. Alright, I'll stop down here. Hope he's up. Thanks for tuning in, or if you're watching this later, hope you all enjoy it. So yeah, quite a bit we got done today. I'm pretty sure this is going to be a free stream case, so we'll see how that flows. But other than that, though, thanks for all tuning in. Hope it's a good day. Hope it's a good week. If you're watching this, obviously on YouTube, it is going to be a Mario Maker Friday. Although it could be whatever, I don't know. Just work the days out, I guess. Or if you are watching this on the rewatch on Twitch, it is, of course, a Monster Hunter on the Thursday at Mario Maker Friday. Y'all know the deal for what's going on here. So yeah, other things up here. Thanks for tuning in. Hope it's a good day. Hope you have a good week. And I will see you all next time. Bye.